In this video, I'm going to show how to use the short multiplication written method. I'm going to do that by using Cuisenaire rods first of all. So if you don't have Cuisenaire rods, you could easily just use the 10 sticks and 1 cubes from your place value blocks. It can also be really helpful to have a multiplication square handy to refer to, so that we don't need to worry about recalling multiplication facts and can concentrate instead on understanding the process. So the first calculation we're going to look at is 14 multiplied by 3. And I'm going to do this first of all using my Cuisenaire rods to make 14. So I need a 10 and a 4. If you don't have Cuisenaire rods, you could use place value blocks, or you could find Cuisenaire rods and place value blocks online that you can use as well. I've made 14, and I can see that that is a 10 and a 4 that I've used to make 14, and I need to do that 3 times. So here we go. So now I've got 14 3 times. So looking at this now, I can see because I partitioned my 14 into 10s and 1s, and in this case there are 4 1s each time, I can work out those 2 parts separately. So 3 multiplied by 10, 3 lots of 10, would equal 30. And then looking at my 1s, I've got 3 multiplied by 4, which would be 12. And now I can actually see that to find 14 multiplied by 3, I can add together 30 and 12, and that would give me my answer. So 30 plus 10 would be 40, and then 2 more, 42. So 14 multiplied by 3 equals 42. So we can do this first of all using manipulatives, and then we can represent it pictorially. So sometimes this is called the grid method or the area model. And I'm going to write in, just as I did here, I'm multiplying by 3, and I'm going to split my number up, partition my number, 14, into the 10 and the 4, so that I can see the 2 separate calculations that I need to do. So first of all, to work out how much I've got in my 10s part, I've got 10 3 times. 3 times 10 is 30. And in my 1s, I've got 4 1s 3 times. So 3 times 4 equals 12. And then all I need to do is add those numbers together to get my answer. So this grid method is really useful as a step from moving away from using the manipulatives, but still understanding that we're multiplying separately our 10s and our 1s, and then adding those 2 answers together to get our final amount. So let's look at another example. And here we're going to look at 68 multiplied by 8. And again, I'm going to use my grid method. So I'm going to partition this into my 10s. So 68 is going to be 60. And then my 1s, 8. There's my 68 multiplied by 8. So we know that we're going to multiply my 10s, 8 multiplied by 60. So 60 is 6 10s. So 8 multiplied by 6 is 48. So that would be 48 10s. There we go. So 480, because the answer is in my 10s place. And then 8 multiplied by 8 is 64. And now we need to add those results together. 480 plus 64. It's not quite so easy to add this time. Our numbers are larger, a little bit more awkward. We need to use a strategy. So I could add 20 out of my 64, add 20 onto 480 to get 500. And then that would leave me with 44. So I can see my answer would be 544. So we have another way we can record this method, or multiplication, and that is by setting it out almost in the column. So sometimes it's called column multiplication or short multiplication. And I've got my initial number 68 here, and I know that I've got my tens and my ones, and I'm multiplying by 8. So I can look at my ones first, just like we would if we were doing a column addition. And I can say I've got 8 times. So 8 times 8 is 54. And just as when we were using a column addition, we can see we're going to put the 6 tens down here so that we can fill in the tens column when we've worked out the next part of the calculation. So we're going to need to add those 6 tens on. So I've done 8 multiplied by 8 is 64. And now I move to my tens. And I've got 6 tens multiplied by 8. So 6 times 8 is 48. But I've got 6 more tens add on to that. So 48 plus 6 is 54. And we know that's in the tens column. It's 54 tens. So really it's 540, which makes our answer 544. Exactly the same as when we used our grid method. So what's actually happening here? I likened this to our addition method because it is very, very similar. If I think about 68 multiplied by 8, what I'm doing is 68 and repeatedly adding it 8 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so that's a lot of recording. We can see why we use our multiplication, short multiplication method, because to record this out just 8 times, we just want 8 lots of 68. Already is quite a long column of numbers. If we try to multiply by a larger number, it would become impossible. So if I'm adding, I've got 8, add 8, add 8, add 8, and so on. The easiest way is to see that I've got that 8 times. 8 lots of 8 is 64. So when I do that addition, I'm actually, to make it easier, using my understanding, my multiplication facts. And then I've got 6s, lots of 6s. How many 6s have I got? I've got 8 6s. Okay, 8 6s are 48. And I've got another 6 to add on in my tens column. So 48 add 6 is 54. So my answer is 544. So the method is exactly the same, really. But instead of thinking about individually adding our numbers up, we're just, because we've got the same number each time to add, we just say, okay, we've got to multiply our ones, however many ones we've got, by 8. And exactly the same with our tens. We've got 6 tens 8 times, so we just multiply our 6 by 8. And so our answer then becomes a lot easier because the addition is part of our process rather than being separate with the larger number with the place value included at the end. So my final calculation I'm going to show is using a 3-digit number. So we've got 453 multiplied by 7. And again, we can see we've got the hundreds, tens and ones, and we're going to multiply each part separately, starting off with our ones. So first of all, in our ones, we've got 3 multiplied by a 7, which is 21. And now I move to my tens. I've got 5 tens. So 5 multiplied by 7 would be 35. But I've got 2 more to add on to that. So 37, I would have 37 tens altogether. And so the 3 now goes into my hundreds column. And finally, my hundreds, I've got 4 hundreds multiplied by 7. How many hundreds would that be altogether? Well, 4 times 7 is 28. So it would be 28 in my hundreds, plus 3 more, which would be 31. 28 plus 3 is 31. So my answer would be 3,171. I hope that has helped you to understand the short multiplication written method. And now that we can understand that method, we can practice and try using that method with 3 or even 4 digit numbers.